Hey,
We're there. Good afternoon.
hey, good afternoon, Denise Rokiki. How you doing?
I'm swell.
Swell is good. That's right out of the 1940s. I love it. How you doing? I'm swell. Hey, I'm Holly Elissa Bruno, and I'm with Denise Rokiki, and we're coming to you from near Boston and Toledo, Ohio. And we are here to be two trauma survivors walking each other home. We come to you weekly to offer an hour's time where each one of us can share. How can we live our lives to the fullest, given we are trauma survivors and given that trauma, early trauma, and adult trauma too, shaped our brain to tell us, you're not safe, you can't do that, you're not worthy, you're not. And we both live in America. So, given today's changed political situation in America, where rights are disappearing, not being added, rights are disappearing, we we're in a climate that really affects us as trauma survivors. So, I just am going to check in with Denise and see what she can tell us about being safe at these meetings, because we do talk about trauma.
Yes, we are here to help, and we are here to stimulate healing in others if possible. And if you become triggered, because we do talk about touchy things, we share intimate details sometimes. And so if you get triggered, you can Google warm line on Google, and it will give you a phone call or email, I think phone call to call, and then you will be able to speak with someone who can offer you support if we're not available. Also, we always drink water to keep ourselves hydrated and safe.
Thank you, Denise. And what you need to specifically look for is the trauma warm line. And almost every state has one. And as of the last time I looked, which was a few days ago, some states like Massachusetts have warm lines you can text to as well
Also,
as call, which makes it, if you're in the middle of a meeting and you get triggered, you can just text away and get support. These are non judgmental, peer run warm lines where people just like you and me, Denise and I, um, who have significant trauma experience, will listen, will care, we won't judge, and we will co create with you a safe place where you can share what's going on with you. It's not a therapy line. It's not a hotline where there has to be a crisis going on. It's a way to connect with people in everyday ways, which is really helpful to trauma survivors. So, Denise, what is the most pressing issue going on with you right now, given you are a trauma survivor?
well, actually, my most significant thing that I've been feeling is a lot of hope because the milkweeds are coming up like crazy. The weather has been really perfect for them. And I have a ton in my yard. I have a new area in my yard. So I've been really in the sensation of hope and joy. When I see those plants, I went over to see my buddy Joe yesterday, and last year I gave his dad some seeds for his yard. And they came up, but they were a little straggly. And last year wasn't the best weather for them. It was really windy the whole time, hot winds. And so they got a little raggled and taggled. But I went over there and I looked down in front of his house, and he's got a huge, beautiful patch of good, strong milkweed. So everywhere I go, I'm looking for it. And it really gives me a lot of joy. I am surprised at how much joy I get out of these milkweed plants.
I hear you, girl. And just in case people are joining us for the first time or they don't know your history, you are the milkweed girl because
Because I try to rescue them from birds, grasshoppers, and praying mantis. I find the eggs and I bring them home and put them in an enclosure and feed them daily and water them daily. And watch them go from the teeniest, tiniest, little, cutest caterpillar you ever saw to a big, huge, honking caterpillar ready to make a jay and a chrysalis and turn into a monarch butterfly.
A very hungry caterpillar, these guys become. So
They eat a whole plant.
Denise loves her monarch butterflies. So what she's saving in particular with these caterpillars is she harvests the eggs. She saves them from getting smacked down the gullet of grasshoppers, or what are the other two predators?
Birds and praying mantis. There's also wasps that go after them, but the top ones are grasshoppers, praying mantis, and birds.
And for sure, there's going to be other stuff for birds and grasshoppers and praying mantises. It doesn't have to be
Right.
these
Doesn't have to
little
be all
tiny,
the eggs.
right, right, right. So how many, now here's something also interesting. Denise has released the last, just let's compare the last 2 years. How many butterflies did you release 2 years ago compared to 1 year ago?
69 last 2 years ago and 68 last year.
Okay. I thought you were like really gearing up for more, but something happened, didn't it? Where you
Yes, it was a bad year for the milkweed. The milkweed really got tattered and torn, and the monarch mommies are interested in fresh little supple green leaves, not the tattered brown ones. So it was a tight year. Like I found 5 eggs in May last year, but then I found 0 in June. And now I haven't found any eggs yet, but I have so much potential.
and that's what hope is about.
Right.
Believing in the potential. So, my friends, we do this program every week to invite trauma survivors or people who love trauma survivors or both to ask you the question, what do you do given trauma can affect us every day? What do you do to be as healthy as you can and live your life as fully as you can? And so, what Denise is talking about here, at least as I'm hearing her, is what gives us hope. And I'm telling you right now, she's right on to something. I do not do the monarch butterflies. I love them. And I send out every fall. I do the absolute spreading of the milkweed seeds. I love it. I have these rituals. I stand at the top of hills and mounds, and I wish them all happy
You make a
homes.
lot of wishes out of one milkweed pod.
You got it. They are wishing pod, wishing like little angels. They go flying out. They're so pretty, like little, not helicopters, but more like parachuters, right? They look like
Right.
parachutes to me.
Right. Yep.
And one of those plants can nurture how many? How
So
many?
many
Like,
insects. Most of them are helpful. Uh, ladybugs, and there's earwigs like to get on there too, but they don't eat the eggs or the caterpillars. Just
good.
so many insects love the milkweed. Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll be talking a lot about progress, the 2025 progress. By the way, we're both cold here, on the monarch butterflies. And I want to say, report similarly, that I have a lot of hope just by having gone to Pierce Meadow Gardens opening day. And it
Yay.
wasn't just a celebration, honeys. It was a work and beautification day. And here's what happened. I've been gardening there ever since I heard about it 10 years ago, ever since I moved to this area. It's a gardening plot on the property of something that is only in the state of Massachusetts. We have a organization called Trustees of the Reservation that will accept bequests from people who want to donate their property so that everybody in the state of Massachusetts can enjoy being outside. It's a really great thing. And it complements state parks and all of that. Thank God, because we got challenges with national and state parks now, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So actually, I'm one of the people that has I don't have a huge estate, but I've left some of my estate to them because I want to make sure that everybody who wants to get out there walking and appreciating nature can do that. Now, one of the properties has had a community garden, and it's been run by a particular agency that has been very big on helping people grow their own sustenance. So I've been part of that. And here's what happened this last year. The organization that was supporting us decided that they were no longer in that work. That was no longer their mission. And so what was going to happen was that whole garden was going to be, well, incrementally plowed under. So for the first thing that was going to happen was that 50% of the gardening plots were going to be plowed under. And that was just arbitrary. It was just what row you were in, you were done. And then after that, the whole thing was going to be plowed under and repurposed. And that broke my heart for two reasons. One, gardening is one of the most healing things I can do. We now know that just having my hands in the soil for 10 minutes heals my nerve cells. It helps them reorient into a healing place. And being outdoors for 10 minutes, as Denise and I often talk about, is also healing. And so for trauma survivors that have the continuous possibility, I'm not going to say threat, but the continuous possibility of having flashbacks, of having memories, of being triggered by things, I need to know what are things I can do that help me feel more myself and less like that infant that was abused. Okay. So I do my gardening. Now here's what happened. So when the garden was gonna be goodbye, I said, this can't happen. And I decided I was gonna make it my project to, I'm saying me, but now we got all kinds of people, which is what my projects are about. We get a community. So it takes a village, and that's what we're doing now. We have together as just everyday gardeners, pull together. We meet every week. We have all kinds of people that are gardeners, from neurodiverse to otherwise able to elders to
right, the age
it's a
differences,
whole age difference thing. Intergenerational. We've got people for whom Hmong is their primary language, Spanish primary language, French primary language, and we came together after a lot of work and a lot of persuading. We had to persuade the organization, the huge organization, the trustees, that we were going to do it. And so I went in advocating with both barrels, actually with a whole lot of heartfelt desire. And as of Saturday, we had a whole crew there. We were weeding, we were weed whacking, we were spreading wood chips. Now, here's the way I love this, the way that we can all help each other. When we met with the trustees about what we could do, because the area between the plots grows up really rapidly, and the trustees have been mowing it, but they're not going to mow it anymore. So, and we don't have any funding. We're going to have to raise all the money ourselves. So what do we do now when the weeds are high and we don't even have a lawnmower? So what we said was, look, if you guys got a lot of trees falling, if you can get the wood chips, you just bring them right over here and dump them. So when I got there on Saturday, there was this mound of wood chips. There were people weeding, and then people throwing the wood chips on top of that. We got about 2/3 of the garden done, and it looks so much better. And I'm hurting, not in a horrible way, but I'm hurting because I've been traveling so much. I leave for Columbus, Ohio. Well, this evening I'll be leaving. And then last week I was in West Virginia, and before that, blah, blah, blah. So blah, 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 blah was good, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so I haven't been able to plant my garden, and I'm always out there end of April, beginning of May to get the seeds in. So what's really beautiful is that I got a note today saying, hey, Holly Elissa, would you like us to weed the two or three of the garden plots that you got left, because I weeded three of them, but there are two more that need weeding. I said, honey, yes, 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 do it. So when I'll get back, I'll have weeded plots, and Saturday I'm going to get out there, honey. I'm going to spread we call it black gold up here in New England. Do you know that term?
Yes, fertilizer.
Fertilizer that's black gold, because it's as many manures as could be combined. And, we get it all up here in New England. We got the chickens, we got the pigs, we got the cows, we got the ostriches sometimes. We got it all.
Llama.
Llama, that's it. It's the llama more than ostrich. But we got it all. And ducks. And we just, last year you should have seen my garden. It was like going cray, which I love. So that's one of the things. Denise does her monarchs. She's like the monarch queen of Ohio, one of them. I do Pierce Meadow gardening. And guess what? I just need to say out loud, yippee skippy, what it took for me as a trauma survivor is to say, I really care about this garden. I really care that there's so many people from the community that come and garden, and so many of us are trauma survivors. It's kind of like when I identify to people as, well, I got complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So if there's a loud noise going off, like a truck goes by with a big boom, and you see me going like that, nothing to do with you. It's just my past experience. And as soon as I said that to a person, not to reveal who the person was, but she said, listen, I have had domestic violence up the wazoo. I have brain damage. I have hearing loss. And she said, that's why you'll see me having a hairpin trigger with anger. And then she said, I want to apologize to you for the time I got really upset with you. I just flew into a rage. And I said, thank you. And now that I know that she's another survivor, I've already seen it. When I've seen things trigger her, I step back and I do what the trauma survivor needs. I listen. I let her know that she's being heard, that she's being valued. And once she gets that,
Practice compassion.
it is compassion, girlfriend. What have you noticed, Denise, so we're talking gardening, and heals the soul for both of us. Denise, what have you noticed that you do when you find somebody else as a trauma survivor? What are some of the things that you immediately transition into because you know they will be helpful to a trauma survivor?
To be my safe teacher Denise self. It is, remember when our friend Stephanie was here with us and she said about masking, which
Right.
I do have that mask of teacher Denise, but I like it because I'm not trying to get rid of it, because it's a safe, compassionate, listening self that I have. And I like to call on her is whenever possible.
And that's what you're saying is all about what trauma survivors need. I believe we need more than anything else for one person on earth, even if it's just one person. It could be many people, but one person on earth that says, you're special to me. You matter to me. I believe in you, and I believe you're going to do special things. Now, how many trauma survivors get that? Did you get that? How old were you, Denise, before somebody started saying that to you?
I really don't remember that somebody did that. Well, in my group, when I first joined that incest survivor support group on the AOL group, that they believed me, they listened to me, they had similar experiences. That was probably the first time, that was 2000.
So you were not a child in 2000. I mean,
No.
You were an adult child, but not a child in 2000. You know what? I often, when I work with groups of people, I ask them, who was the first person in your life that you remember that saw you as special, that got you, man, they got you, and they let you know that they believed in you. And when I ask that question, there's usually somebody that comes to us in our childhoods. However, more and more, I'm hearing people say, well, nobody came when I was a kid. Nobody
Right.
was there. Or people say other things like, well, could I say my dog? And I say, yeah, you can say your dog.
Hmm.
Dogs are spirits. Dogs are like,
No
they are
judgment from a dog.
totally
And that's what's so
unconditional love.
important. I did have someone at age 13, it was a neighbor woman
Okay.
who was actually in a domestic violence situation, and her husband at the time was weird. And she, she loved me and thought I was special. So
And how did you know that? Was that with her through her actions, words, or
through
both?
her action, she had a little 2-year-old boy who she was teaching him to say, I love you, which made me very nervous because I never heard those words in my
Right.
family. So, and she noticed that, she observed that I was unable to articulate that myself. So she kind of, taught me to say it too, to say, I
I
love, right,
love
you. And I
you.
got used to it, and that way. And, but then she was, because of something her husband did in the neighborhood, we weren't allowed to go there anymore.
Oh, geez. That must have been
So,
tough on her and you.
right, it was.
Ah,
But anyway, the good part did happen. And, and that's when I was 13 or so. So it
how long
was
did you have with
significant.
her, hon, before she
Maybe
got,
it's maybe just one summer.
but one summer made all the difference.
Yeah.
Remember her first name?
Chris.
Chris. See, that's it. We don't forget those people that were there for us. We don't forget. And there's a neuroscientific explanation for that. When people touch our hearts, we don't forget them. And that means people that touch our hearts in cruel ways as well as beautiful ways. We don't forget. Our hearts remember and our amygdala gland remembers, which says if somebody scares us, we don't forget. It's like a child touching a stove, a hot stove. Once most children are going to remember, don't touch a hot stove. The problem is if the child is like continuously pushed toward a hot stove or burned or harmed or shamed, the child is going to start thinking that's what's going to happen all the time. And
Right.
that's trauma. That's being a trauma survivor. So those of you that are listening, the question we've got for you is, who was your person? Who was your Chris that was there for you when you were a child that looked at you and you looked at them and you knew they saw you? You knew they cared about you. You knew they thought you were special. I had a early childhood director in the Puckies. In West Virginia, they call it the hills and hollers because they're really tall hills and then there are these hollows. And so people either lived in the hollers, or they lived up the hill. Anyway, there was a director from West Virginia, and she said to me in her own wonderful West Virginia way, which was very loving, she said, every child on earth deserves at least one adult that loves her to the moon and back and thinks she's the greatest thing ever. And that's what heals us.
It does. It starts the healing process at least.
It starts the process. And Chris taught you to say,
I
I love
love
you.
you. Right. And
And I'm going to say, I didn't ever hear I love you. I never heard that. What do you think
it's
that was
scary
about?
when you do hear it, the original
First
sensation is
time. Yeah. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with it because it was so foreign to me. My family never said, I love you. Once we got older and it became, how can I say, I think my parents caught on that that's what you're supposed to do.
right.
Or maybe it gave them permission to do it. But My father was a narcissist. He did not love me. I'm so glad to hear the research now that says that narcissistic parents cannot love their children. So when I didn't feel loved by him, he could not love me. Okay. So even if he had said, I love you, it would have been for some purpose to get something,
Right.
not. Well, in fact, I did have an experience with him, and I wrote about it in my book where he had hurt me physically. He had bent my finger and I felt like it was going to break. And that was really scary. And we are Sicilians. So what Sicilians do is just one small thing that will get the message. Send that message to your brothers was is the thing. So by hurting my finger, I got the message. He could really hurt me if I didn't go along with what he wanted. Anyway, he hurt me in many ways. He was an incestor of me. I am an incest survivor, which of course I was never allowed to own or say or realize. You didn't see that, daughter. But I realized, I don't know, I was in elementary school, so maybe I was 8 or 9 years old. I said to him, I wrote him a note because he was so scary. I said, I'm going to leave because you hurt my hand really badly, and I can't let that happen anymore. So I'm going to leave. And I meant it. And what I meant was not just you hurt my finger, you come into my room at night and you abuse me, scares me to high heaven, death. You beat me, you shame me, you punish me, you hurt me, you are sadistically abusive to me. And what I wanted to say was, I'm leaving because I can't stand any of this abuse. And sometimes when you beat me, I'm not sure I'm going to live. But I couldn't say that to him, but I could say you hurt my hand because that was like not talking about anything sexual or the pounding out stuff. And his response, now here was his response as a narcissist. He didn't say, I'm so sorry. He didn't even pretend to say that because I don't recall my father, only once in his 101 years did he apologize. And that was a manipulative apology that I was supposed to forgive him immediately for what he said. And if I didn't, he wouldn't talk to me for days afterwards because I didn't just say, of course I forgive you. He wouldn't talk with me. He just wouldn't talk with me. Anyway, the thing that he said to me was not, I'm sorry, or I know I did the wrong thing, or that won't happen again, or any of that. What he said was, when he put it in writing, he said, don't leave. I couldn't live without you, daughter. He really didn't call us by individual names. He just called us daughter because we were kind of, what's the word in the law? Fungible. Fungible is when you got a bunch of jelly beans and they all kind of look alike. Or you got a bunch of monarch eggs and they all kind of look alike. One is not special at all. So I couldn't live without you, daughter. And I always felt creepy about that. And Denise, when something feels creepy to you, let's talk about the word creepy. What does that usually mean to you? What's going on?
I get a sensation in my going like up my lower back, up my back that's like creepy.
Creepy crawly, huh?
Yeah.
So you get this sensation, which is it a good sensation or no?
It's uncomfortable.
Right. So what I learned about creepy sensations, which is what I had when I read that, when I rediscovered my journal after decades and read that again, I felt creepy. Creepy, I've come to understand, it's like a somatic indicator that something manipulative, unsafe, and likely to be sexual is going to happen or
Right.
is behind the message. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, even like in the Me Too movement, they felt the creepiness before the abuse. but
Right.
like it's your body warning you, maybe.
That's a really good point. I think that in a way, our bodies know that we're in danger. And, I always valued that how animals, cows knew it was going to rain, so they all went to a safe place together, right? Or during a tsunami in countries that have tsunamis, the cows there, the animals there climb. They know to climb. And I think if animals are gifted like that, we're animals. We must be gifted like that. So I have creepy feelings sometimes, and I think there's wisdom in that because it's not safe.
Right.
Um, and there's that, but the not safe is also similar to what you said. When I don't feel safe, my hands can sweat, the hair on the back of my neck, if there were hair there, would like stand up. And I start feeling dry mouth, dry throated. And that means I'm scared and unsafe. But the sexually unsafe has got the additional creepiness to it.
Right.
And I don't know that trauma survivors have talked about it that much, but I think it's a common thing.
Yeah, we get creeped out by
That's the word.
we get creeped out by people that don't honor our boundaries or don't even see that there is a boundary. So many men in our culture just think they get to take whatever they want. They just take it.
That's true. And that's true for some women too, that
Yeah,
just sort of like, have you ever
it
been
is.
creeped
I know women
out?
abuse also, but
But in
my
your experience and mine, it's been more men than women.
right,
In fact, it's been in terms of sexually, I mean, I've had some boundaries crossed, but men more than women, in my experience, strength, and hope, have crossed my boundaries. And I remember being creeped out just verbally, just if a man were to say to me, and I remember this happening like decades ago. I was in my 20s and I was part of this group that was involved with the school systems, integrating the school systems. Um, I was teacher in Charlotte, North Carolina, and there were still segregated schools, and I was teaching at a segregated school. I was teaching at West Charlotte Senior High School, which was an all-Black school, and I was the only white teacher, and it was a big school. There was a white assistant coach and a white nurse, maybe, and that was it. And I was happy. I felt at home. I was ready to go in there, and I did, and learned a hell of a lot. I sure hope they learned from me. But I remember and I don't want to identify the person, but it was not a person from the school system, but somebody working with us came in and he was married, and I knew that. He came in and he said, I'd like to have sex with you. I'd like to have a relationship with you, a sexual relationship with you. You're really attractive to me. And I was so creeped out just by those words. I was creeped out that he was a person that I had trusted, because that makes it worse. When
right.
the person's in a trusted position, he was in a position of authority. There we go again, abusing authority. He was married. Come on. And I did I said no, but I was creeped out the rest of the days that he was working with us, because I didn't feel safe. And not only that, this was way before I had any recovery or any understanding of being a trauma survivor. The other thing that was awful was I started to blame myself. I said, oh my God, am I dressed it's like a rape survivor, am I
Right.
dressed inappropriately? Did I do something like as a come on to him? So that whole weekend I covered up, wore the biggest clothes I could. And and actually what I said to him was, no. I just said it straight out. No, I'm not interested in that. I don't feel that way about you. And I'm also offended that you're married and you would think that I would be willing to do that.
Right.
So when I told him that, I think it was right away. I think I said it right away, or it would have been harder if I had waited to say, I need to talk with you, because then I would have felt really awful about myself. But I said it to him, and his response was, I'll never forget this, Denise. It wasn't any kind of apology or any kind of taking responsibility. It was, well, that's okay. You don't totally fit my neurotic needs. Anyway, neurotic needs, what the hell was that about? Now, this guy was a psychologist, and neurotic needs, but that was his, he was like he was talking to himself. He wasn't talking to me. He was
Right.
just reassuring himself that this wasn't a rejection. I wasn't really what he needed. But that was a creepy, creepy thing. And I hated it a lot. And it brought all of the survivor stuff back. I can't trust authorities. I can't trust older men. I can't trust somebody with whom I've been very frank, because this whole process we were going through required us to be really frank and be ourselves. And so I got used to that. That felt unsafe. And the whole weekend we were together working on things together with this whole group of educators, I basically withdrew into myself.
Right.
I wasn't my usual sharing, hey, what do you think of this? And boy, do I love that idea. I was like shut down.
Your
I
genuine,
just
authentic self is repressed because
couldn't
you're not
exist.
safe.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't exist. And to me, and want to ask you about this, to me, as a sexual abuse survivor, an incest survivor, that has any threat of that has a deep shutdown effect on me. If I feel someone's a predator, I feel fear, creeped out, and I'm out of there.
Yeah. Even in, like social situations when someone's behaves more forward than um, woman or man, I get creeped out by forward acting people.
Because forward means I'm likely to cross your boundaries.
Right. I'm going to try
Mm-hmm.
to cross your boundaries, or I'm going to, I get a little kick out of making you uncomfortable.
Right. I enjoyed it. And there's the sadism. My father wasn't just a narcissist, he was a sadistic narcissist. And what I've found out, thanks to my trauma support system, I found out that sadism gives people a sexual high. So being sexually abusive in a sadistic way is a turn on.
Right.
Now that creeps me out even more. I'm still creeped out knowing that.
Yeah, it is creepy.
So here's the truth. We can get creeped out by things on television. We can get creeped out by reading something. We can get creeped out by just seeing something in public. And here's an example. When there was a presidential debate between a man and a woman, and it wasn't this last election, up stood the woman was her turn, and she was interacting with the group that was there. So she stepped out from behind her podium, and she walked up to greet the audience and to talk with them. And what happened was the man, who was like much taller, much bigger than she was, moved around beyond his podium and started walking behind her in a kind of predatory way. He didn't go there with good intentions.
No,
Did you remember seeing that?
I do. And
What
it
did
was
you recall
creepy.
seeing? Creepy.
Right. Yeah, it was a predator trying to exert power, trying to get
Stalking.
right to get into her frame.
Right. She
To,
didn't know. So I felt unsafe. I felt afraid for her.
right.
neurologically. I mean, this guy's like stalking behind her. She doesn't know he's there. I think if she had known, she might have turned around and said something to him.
Right.
But that's how predators do. They stalk, they come up behind us, they get us
To
when
shock
we're
you.
shocking and we're deer in the headlights shocked. What the hell am I going to do? This guy's about
Pounce.
to abuse me, to pounce on me, to require things of me that I do not want to give. So as I saw that happening, it got me. It really got me. Now I went on to listen to the debate, but this was years ago, what, 8 years ago, maybe? I didn't have as much recovery then. And all I knew is that I was really triggered. I was upset for her and I was upset. Now I couldn't sleep that night and I'm a sleeper.
Uh-huh.
And when I woke up the next morning, I realized because sometimes trauma survivors have delayed responses.
Right.
Have you experienced that?
Yeah, yeah. Like even physical responses due to the fact that I suppressed all sensations and feelings within my abuse, that I became unfamiliar with what those sensations are supposed to be telling us and feelings. So yeah, it's
And
horrible.
and that's another way you're describing us, what I do, what we all do as dissociation.
Right.
When I feel unsafe in my body, which I did simply watching another person, another woman being stalked in front of everybody. I mean, this wasn't just a hidden thing. This was like, I've got the right in front of millions of people to do whatever I want with women, and I'm going to go stalk you.
Yep.
That scared the bejesus out of me. And what happened was I felt fear for the woman being stalked. However, it was so primitive to me that I couldn't acknowledge my own fear for myself. I
Right.
couldn't acknowledge my own history. What I did was dissociated from my body, which is no wonder I couldn't sleep. I was gone away from myself.
Right.
Dissociation from the body means I'm not physically safe anymore and I've got to get out of here. And if I'm stuck in a place, I head up, as you did, Denise, for the ceiling. I get out of there. I picture myself off someplace else with people that love me or that care about me. So I dissociated, and it took me overnight before I came back home to my body and I started writing about what was going on. And then, thank God, I heard other trauma survivors on the news saying he was stalking her. That is re-traumatizing us as women. That is scary and that is creepy. And I was so glad to hear another woman say that because it confirmed for me why I had such a strong reaction.
Right. And it lets you know that that genuine reaction that you had is a genuine reaction.
It's a yes. And I
But
could
you
come
had to
back to
take
my
the whole
body
night of sleeping and to
trying to
to
sleep.
get
Yeah.
to that point, right? Of, oh, that's what that is.
Right. And I
It,
think that let's talk a little bit about the delayed response thing because I have that less and less, but I still have it when I'm in a threatening situation. And my mind sometimes goes to how can I survive rather than how can I confront this situation?
oh yeah, my first instinct is to get out of here.
Yep, fight or flight,
Yep,
get out of there.
get
And
out
it's
of here. Yep, and
I bet your instinct sometimes is to freeze too,
sometimes yes, I do have that as well.
because it's
Es
just
especially in like social situations, like the flight is when it's with men. That's when I
Hmm,
want to get away from them. But
okay.
when there's a woman that is being, overt or creepy, in my opinion, I will freeze. I'll just go because I'm supposed to be safe here with women. But anyway, yeah, that's when I freeze is when it's women.
And what's going on inside of you when you freeze?
Well, I'm not really processing what's genuine.
Yep.
Um, uh, I guess trying to feel whole or to feel, searching inside of myself for the one time that I could say no, leave me alone, or I think I'm trying to find courage.
Yeah. Well, here's another perspective on this. And I can't remember the full term biologically, but it's called tonic sensibility or something like that. And we're not the only, again, we're not the only animal that responds that way. It's deer in the headlights. When a deer is threatened to death, it stops. Now, that's not a productive thing to do. It could
Right,
get killed for stopping, but it's what the body is telling it to do is to hold still. Because if I hold still, a predator will only go after something moving. The deer got these responses before there were cars and trucks that could run over it. So the deer is just doing what's naturally. So the tonic sensibility, whatever it's called, means that animals, when threatened, stop, hold still, play dead. And taking that to the next step, what they also do is the blood drains out of their brain. And so they can faint. So fainting is in part a play dead response to something that's so threatening that we can't stay in ourselves. Just how does that sound to you?
yeah, that sounds relatable.
You bet. And so there's people even laugh about this. It's so dramatic. Go to YouTube or go to YouTube, wherever else you can find videos. You will find, just look up, click in fainting goats. And, goats are being used these days for goat yoga,
Right.
goat yoga, goat painting, even because goats are so playful and fun. They have this way of gambling. That's the word where they put you ping, chicka, punch, chicka, chicka, boom, chicka. They're all 4 feet, chicka, boom, chicka, ping, all 4 feet going up and down. And they're like, I mean, it's so much frivolity and fun. How can you not laugh?
Right.
So you've heard of goat yoga? Do they bring in the
Yes, I
goats?
have. I
Have you ever
have.
done it?
I haven't done it.
I
We
haven't
actually
either.
have around here llama yoga.
Llama would work really well.
Yeah.
And they don't do the gambling, but they're so gentle and they're just
Yeah.
chewing and all that stuff. And
They
they're
have that
lumbering
long
around.
neck. I like them.
Yeah. So llama yoga, goat yoga, and goat painting, I think, is just the delight of being invited to be our true selves, our authentic selves, because these goats are just playing around, coming up, butting their heads. And how can we not spontaneously smile and be affected by that? But what happens in this video of the goats, the fainting goats, is scary. And it's just like, well, it's just what we're talking about. A gunshot goes off. And what do the goats do? They immediately stop whatever they're doing to gamble around and they literally pretend to faint and they stick their feet up in the air like this. So they look really silly. It's like a goat on its back with all 4 feet straight up. But it's like a dog that when dogs need to submit to each other, they go essentially, here, bite my neck.
Right.
You're in charge, bite my neck. So these are responses we do to let the predator know you don't want to chomp on me. I'm dead. And predators instinctively know to walk on by, just walk on by, boom, 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 boom. A dead animal. So I believe that the fainting I fainted as a child. I remember specifically the times. One was when I was medically abused, not intentionally by the doctor, but my parents really had no interest if I was hurt. And so I broke an arm. I literally took my broken arm. I got in a fight with a boy that was older than me, and I wasn't going to let him know that he broke my arm, but there it was. And I knew I had to get to a doctor. So I walked down to my parents' house and I said, my arm is broken. Can you take me to a doctor? I was like 7 or 8, 6, 7 or 8. And they did, because they could see the arm was broken. The doctor said, I'm going to try a new process with you. And he put a plastic splint on, as opposed to the regular wooden splint, which they used to do back in the day. I'm going to try this. He showed it to me. This is a new thing. Let's see how it works. He put it on. What did I know? He was a doctor. What did my parents know? He was a doctor.
Right.
Put it on. And within a few days, my whole wrist itched unbearably. I couldn't stand it. My mother would just say, oh, you're just healing, get over it. When it started to smell, I couldn't take it anymore. It was smelling and it itched, and something was wrong. And so I think I must have said to my mother, this smells, there's something wrong here. And she had to take me back. When I was taken back to the doctor and he took off the plastic, it turns out my skin was allergic to the plastic and had been left on so long. I don't want to gross you out, but here's the truth. My skin started dying.
Right. Decomposing.
And when he took that off, I looked at my body dying. That's when I fainted. Instinctively, my little kid's body knew that means I'm dying. And I think
right.
it was horrible. So I remember that. So that's back to what predators, when predators threaten us, if it's serious enough, we pretend to die. And I'm going to tell you right now, another thing, I wonder if you did this. As a child, when I knew my father was coming toward my crib, not just bed, my crib, I would pretend I would squeeze up against the opposite side of the crib where he couldn't reach me because it was against the wall. Of course, he could reach me, but I would squeeze. I felt like I was going through the bars of the crib, and I would pretend I was asleep. Did you ever do that? Did you ever pretend you were sleeping?
Oh, yeah. The entire time that I was being abused by my stepfather, I pretended I was asleep the whole time. You know, over years of, I always pretended that I was asleep.
That sounds so hard. So he was doing things.
Right.
Uh, do you think that might have helped your body dissociate? You dissociate?
Probably, yeah. Because it was, it was kind of a ritual type experience, and
It was.
I would I would use that beginning of the ritual to dissociate into the corner up in the ceiling.
And I'll never forget what you said about that. You didn't totally leave. I mean, I totally left the house. I left the room and tried to go up to heaven. You didn't totally leave. I think you were older too. You were 13
Yeah.
and you
I
made a choice.
Yeah, I wanted to know. I did not want to forget what was happening to me. Because I have sisters who I believe, one sister who I believe forgot what happened to her, which you have a sister like that as well.
Right.
And my other sister did not forget, but yeah, I didn't want to forget because I knew it was wrong. And one thing I knew, I guess, from Catholic education was that people that do the wrong thing, they can at least be an example of what not to do.
Oh, that's great, actually.
Right. I, kind of got that wisdom as a youngster, maybe from Catholicism. I don't know, but that's why I wanted to stay so that I knew what not to do.
And here's something else. Can I give you a moment of feedback on that? Okay. I'm asking because sometimes people just assume trauma survivors want information we might not want it. It's like asking, it's like giving a little kid a hug. I hear teachers saying all the time, well, I'll just hug him. Guess what? Ask the kid.
Right.
for me, physical closeness meant incest. My family did not hug. If somebody came right after me, that meant, ooh, that's creepy and dangerous. And I would hold still. I would literally tighten up when someone would hug me. And they would
Right.
think, what's wrong with this kid? Well, I'll tell you what's wrong if I could, but I had to keep this secret. So here's the thing that I was thinking of, and take what you like and leave the rest. But part of maybe why you chose to get out of there, but stay there and see, was that that might have given you some power in a powerless situation, some choice in a totally choiceless situation,
Right.
and some agency in a place where you had no power to stop or change anything. Does that might fit?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it definitely fulfilled that role.
Yeah. It's the same thing as a little kid that blames herself, which trauma survivors so do so often. You talk about it as feeling unworthy.
Right.
And I talk about it, not only am I unworthy, but I'm the one that caused this mess. And look what happened to rape, the law, and rape victims for years. The law made the rape victim the problem. You must
Right.
have brought it on yourself. How
Right.
were
What
you
you were
dressed that
wearing.
day?
Right. And another thing that I always remembered was when my abuse began with my stepfather, which there was abuse before that as well, but with my stepfather, uh, I didn't have any boobs. I didn't have any womanly shape. I was not sexy. I was a little skinny tomboy. So, because I did face that understanding that, oh, maybe it was my fault because of I was sexy, but I never accepted that because I wasn't sexy.
And thank God you never got this. Here's the thing that it took me decades to be able to say out loud, and this may affect you. So I'm going to say the word. I was raised by a pedophile. Pedophiles enjoy sexually abusing image on, little girls,
Right,
little boys.
right.
So to
It's
them,
not sexy, it's I have power over.
right, because that's what rape is. It's power.
Right,
It's not sex. It's about, I can be violent and abusive to you. And that was my father's theme. I have the total power in this house. None of you females has any power. It doesn't matter if you're a newborn. It doesn't matter what you are. I have the power to use you in any way that I want to. And that pedophilia thing, I wanted to tell you, I went to a survivors meeting. This was in the last 10 years. It's like going to an incest survivors meeting, was a trauma survivors meeting. I don't know any incest survivors meetings around here, but they're very helpful, as you know. Anyway, I went to a trauma survivors meeting and I decided I would say out loud the word pedophile. Say it out loud. I literally was a soaking rag. I'm sweating from my armpits. I'm sweating from my armpits. I'm sweating from my palms. I'm sweating because when I tried to say pedophile, it was as if I were damning myself. I so much had taken on board the it's your fault. You're the one. If you weren't so ugly, if you weren't so stupid, if you weren't so, get her out of my sight from birth. I felt like revealing that meant I was going to die.
right.
I was going to die. The first time I said it, I was horrible. I mean, it was just horrible. I said it. I'm grateful I had the courage to say it, but it was like it almost killed me. Felt like it was killing me to say that.
4 o'clock.
Thank you. Wow, that's amazing. This one went by fast.
It did.
It did.
We didn't even have a specific topic in order, but we find them.
Honey, they come to us. And I think that is a rather spiritual thing. I think being open, it was nothing I could afford as a child in the context of traumatizers, but being open is what I choose to do as an adult trauma survivor. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it brings me trouble.
Mhm.
I mean, I think I said last week, I said out loud, I'm angry. I am angry. And now there are all kinds of repercussions from having said that. And I have to make changes myself, not to myself, but I have to take on more work because of that. Was it punitive? The response, I don't know. I don't think so. But I think that there are dangers still for being a woman who's honest about her feelings, especially when the feelings aren't pretty.
Right.
And I was raised, you can't get angry. Only the adults can get angry. So I said I was angry, and it caused, well, I can't say what went on with the other person, but it sure resulted in me having more work to do.
Right.
Yesterday. And I'll do it because what I want to accomplish is important, and it's important for trauma survivors. And I'm going to do that. But it's going to be crazy. I'll be riding on an airplane. So, yeah, let's wrap. What on earth? And before that, I just want to invite our listeners. And Denise, whenever you want to invite them, please do too. But I want to hear from you guys. What is it like hearing the two of us talk about this process? My brain is doing what a trauma survivor's brain does. It's shutting down now. Usually I'm good at looking back at the program and saying, well, this is what we talked about.
But we talked about so many intimate things that were triggered.
So I got triggered, my friends, and I got my water right here, and my mouth is dry. So here's to taking care of myself.
Yep.
So maybe more than wrapping up, maybe what I need to do, you speak for yourself, of course, is maybe I need to do something to take care of myself because this was in a way re-traumatizing.
Walk around the yard, look at your beautiful flowers that are blooming, or some things are just sprouting. It really helps.
I've got a beautiful purple iris out there that by the time I get back from Ohio, it's going to be so gorgeous. And I've got already blooming columbine, a purple and white one and a pink and white one. And every time I walk out to my garden, there's something new. It's as if those things grow like in rapid slow motion.
Right.
So I will do that. I'm also going to eat because I haven't eaten today. I'm going to take care of myself doing that first. What are you going to do to be
I'm
kind
going to
to
walk around and look at my milkweed and get all happy again.
That'll do it, girl.
Yep.
That'll do it. And listeners, guys, whatever you need to do, if you called the trauma warm line, God bless you. Good for you. And
if you're on
you
Facebook and you see me signed on, you're welcome to chat me up. I'm always willing to listen.
Thank you. I'm not going to say that for this week because I'm so busy that I might not be able to get back to people for quite a while. But yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And yeah, I hope that no one has been injured by our being so honest. And if you have in any way been triggered or traumatized, please do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself right now in this moment. And I will be available to you starting next Sunday. How about that? When I'm done with my work and I'm back home, I will be available if you want to talk with me specifically. I'm open to that, very open to that. So we are two trauma survivors walking each other home, Denise.
We are.
Do you feel like you landed in a new place or any place that's healing at all?
Yeah, I'm always stepping forward to be more healed.
And I feel healed in this way. I feel joined. I feel joined in the fact that you and I had similar experiences we haven't talked about before. And I also feel liberated that by sharing that thing about the seeing stalking predatory behavior on TV can trigger me. And I'm not alone in that.
Mm-mm.
So you're not alone. We're not alone. And that's why we're here. And please give us any feedback you want to, including that was not safe for me. Or it's okay. Don't worry about it, guys. What you did was honest and you had told us up front what we could do, whatever it is. So thank you for being with us, Denise. Thank you for your honesty. Enjoy those butterflies
Yep.
in utero, whatever they get called when they're in seed.
Also,
Yeah.
have a great week in Columbus. So hopefully I can get there and see you. I'm not sure I will,
That would
but
be great. Denise and I have this goal of we haven't seen each other since before COVID, I believe. We got a
yep.
picture of us that Denise took in Ohio, Columbus, and I think it was Columbus.
It was Sandusky.
Was it Sandusky?
I
Okay,
think
it
so,
was so they
yeah.
were already going up to that place in Sandusky. Anyway, we have a picture of us. We both had a little bit more weight back in the day, but we're both
We were little
smiling.
chunkalunks.
Dunkalunka as we were, but we were good folk anyway. And
Yep.
and so Denise had we had a picture taken of that. So now if we can get together in Columbus for the National Head Start Association 60th anniversary, thank
60th.
God
Yeah, that's beautiful.
it's a very big thing. And thank God Head Start has survived. And there's now a Head Start song that
Yeah, I
came
saw
out.
that.
I love it. That we're invited to sing. It's like, we're still here. And so if we can get together, we will do
We'll
our
get some
little
photos.
photo of both of us. So when you see the invitation to join us, you'll see both of us. So yippee skippy. I didn't want to post that old picture of us
No,
because
we
it's
don't
not
look like
us.
that anymore.
We don't.
And we have 4 years of supporting and healing.
That's
So
right.
it does change you.
It does. I feel changed. I feel I'll be changed after this conversation. That's part of what it's about. So thank you, Denise, and thank you, everybody.
Have a
We'll see
great
you.
week.
Yeah, see you next Monday if you're East Coast, 3 o'clock, and London, 8 o'clock at night, and whenever, wherever. Just join us. Thank you. Now let me stop the recording. I do this talking myself through it because I want to get it right. Are you going to stop? Do I want it? Yes.